Girls, what was the most obvious hint you dropped and the guy just didn't get it? Story number 1. I had a girl invite me around her house once just to show me her posters. They were all of Harley-Davidson motorbikes, and she said she's never ridden a Harley before. Awkward silence, and after a few other short bits of small talk, I decided to be on my way. 2 years later, I'm sitting on the bus and realized what she meant. Harley. Ridden a Harley. My name is Harley. Damn, I feel so bad for her. That's a perfect line too. Story 2. When my boyfriend and I had just started dating, we were laying down watching a movie. But this was a small bed, and he was being respectful and giving me space. I kept wiggling backward so I could get closer to him, and he kept inching backward too, since he thought I was just trying to get comfortable and he was in the way. He ended up sitting in a chair next to the bed. 3 years later, we're still together, and I still think it's pretty funny. He told me that when he was in the chair, he purposely left his hand next to me in case I wanted to hold it, but I guess I missed that sign too. He didn't get out of the bed because he was uncomfortable. He truly thought he was taking up too much space and didn't realize I was trying to cuddle. Story 3. A couple of weeks ago to my boyfriend of 3 years, me, undresses and lays naked on the couch, waiting to bone. Him, makes a dumb joke. Ooh, you're naked, that's so weird. Me, dies a little bit inside. Story 4. I asked a guy at a festival to come take a shower with me. He didn't get it. He just repeated there was only one free shower, and I was like, well, they're big, I'm sure it's fine. And he just looked confused and told me I could go first. We became close friends since that happened about 2 years ago, and this summer I spoke to him about it, and he really had no idea. He did the biggest facepalm I've ever seen. Story 5. On our first date, my current boyfriend and I went out to dinner, to a bar, and eventually back to his house to watch scary movies. After hanging out for almost 8 hours at that point, practically cuddling into him the entire time we were watching movies, dropping as many hints as I could. Around 3 a.m. when we were both fighting to stay awake, I finally had to look at his dumbass in the eye and ask, so are you going to kiss me or not? Though he was totally oblivious, it did show his good heart. He was about to let me fall asleep on his couch and spend a night without even trying to kiss me. I knew he was a keeper after that. Story 6. He told me my hair looked nice. I said, bet it would look nicer with your hands in it. He said in a very confused tone, you want me to style your hair? This one is great. At least he managed to say he was clueless. Story 7. I once was modeling clothes I planned to take on vacation for my boyfriend. After showing a couple of outfits, I told him to close his eyes and changed into lingerie. He opened his eyes and I asked him what he thought. His jaw dropped and he said, you can't wear that outside. I put my clothes back on. How could you not jump his bones after such comedic genius? Story 8. Not a girl, but I was staying a night at a hotel, and the hotel bar had just closed. I went out front to smoke and start chatting with 2 women. We shoot the shit for a few minutes and then all head back into the hotel into the elevator. We get in, they press 15, I press 9, and one of them turns to me and says, I don't suppose there's a secret bar on the 9th floor we can go to. My dumbass response, no, but you can grab a cab and be at a bar in 10 minutes. Then the doors open and I leave. Story 9. I used to be oblivious and I probably still am. There was a girl at a local grocery store who was flirting with me, but of course, I didn't get it. After quite a bit of this, I leave town for a few months and we're corresponding via email. I can't remember why, but I was asking her a string of silly questions like, why is the sky blue? Chicken or the egg first? Where do babies come from? Etc. She answered them all, saving where do babies come from for last, and answered it with, when you get back, I'm going to show you. I got that one. So where do babies come from? Did she show you? Asking for a friend here. Story 10. My buddy in college was stressing over when to make the move to kiss a girl he liked. While we encouraged him to not wait for the perfect moment and just go for it, he admitted he should have tried to kiss her when they were in the shower. If this is the truth, I think I need a brick for my own head. Story 11. When I was about 35, I lived in a beach town near a university. My neighbors were all college kids. Next door was 2 college girls. One was always flirting with me. One hot summer day, she turned up at my door in nothing but a long t-shirt. She asked if she could hang out in the AC. I said sure. And she came over to the sofa I was sitting long ways on and laid with her back to my chest and asked if we could snuggle. I was okay with that. She then asked me to rub her belly, which I did. As you can imagine, after about an hour, I was getting a little worked up and touched her breast while rubbing her belly. She jumped up and stormed out. I was like, what the fuck? She later said she didn't see me like that. I asked her why she'd show up almost naked, lay between my legs like couples do, and ask me to rub her belly and then get pissed when I try to progress things. She said she looks at me like a big brother. I was like, What the fuck is your family like? Story 12. A girl came to my house once and spent the night. Around time for bed, she told me she doesn't sleep with a top on or panties. I told her that's okay, I'll sleep on the couch so she can be comfy. She called me from downstairs later that night and told me she couldn't sleep and that she was cold. I figured, well, obviously you're naked. So I gave her another blanket and went back downstairs. Story 13. Guy here was invited back to study by one of the girls in my class at her apartment. We're about half hour in and she says she might take a shower. I'm like, kinda random, but okay. Anyway, she starts telling me the door to the shower is broken, so don't come in. Says it 3 or 4 more times. Again, I'm like, okay, weird she said that multiple times, but okay. An hour later, the shower's still running. I can hear her singing and humming away, so I know she's okay and hasn't drowned. Thinking, gee, that's a long shower though. Water goes off and she comes out dressed and says, you didn't come in? I'm confused as I'm like, what the fuck? She told me not to. She sits back down, clearly distracted and not wanting to study. We wrap up after 5 minutes. Drive home. Maid asks me how the study was about a week later and the situation, which I hadn't given a single brain cell of thought to since. I explained to him. As I'm saying it out loud, the penny drops as to what a big fuckhead I am. Story 14. So answering in lieu of my late wife here, I, husband, am dumb. Like, really dumb. She and I met and became friends very quickly, but I didn't know she apparently had a huge crush on me. I thought she was out of my league, and apparently she thought I was out of her league too. But she couldn't stop the feels. She rubbed her feet on me while we were talking, asked me in detail about my package, and gave me her phone number with the line, hit me up if you want pizza and sex. We went out for lunch and she offered to fillet me for a Dr. Pepper, and she was very insistent that we got Meat Lover's Pizza when I asked her what she wanted for watching a movie later. After we watched the movie, she was in my bed. I figured she wanted to keep warm and cuddle, but she strutted into my bathroom stark naked and I had some double D's staring at me. She kissed me and told me, I want you to fuck me, you idiot. A regular romance story there. In my defense, she had a really warped sense of humor and I thought she was kidding with all that stuff. It felt so natural with us being friends that the thought didn't even cross my mind until she propositioned me that there was a potential for more. I had some really fucked up exes and I thought romance was something where I had to jump through hoops for the other person and wait on them hand on foot. But she was different. That's why she was the one who I got on one knee for. Advice to the ladies out there? If my wife telling me, I want you to fuck me, got through my legendarily thick skull, I think as a last resort that'll get through to anybody. Story 15. I am a guy, but I can share my density as the guy that missed the hints. I went to a store where there was a girl I liked in college. We used to small talk while I browsed and never bought anything, bringing a poor college student. This time I came into the store and she said I and we chatted a bit while I shopped. She complained, I'm going to be home alone tonight. My family is out of town. I replied, oh, that's too bad. She says, I'm off at 5 today. It was 4 at the time. What are you up to tonight? I'm up for anything. Oh, nothing, just sitting at home and watching a movie. My brain must have completely self-destructed because the conversation ended there. I never saw her again after that. She either quit or avoided me. Must have been in a daze from school to miss that cue. Story 16. We were discussing costumes and I sent a picture of me in my bunny suit and said I need help getting out of it. His response was telling me he hoped my roommate was home or that would suck. I had to tell him I was implying I'd like him to take it off me and took him a minute to catch up. Edit. For those of you concerned, it was very much a suggestive picture. I'm not sure it could have been perceived as just friendly. And no, you won't be getting proof of said picture for those in my DMs. I was very much ready to hit him with a bat of bluntness because we get along great, and he'd seemed flirty with me before. Story 17. As a guy, to any girl reading this, you have no idea how easy it is to miss hints. Please be more obvious. We're also really bad at being scared of taking signals wrong. Story 18. A guy I'm currently seeing invited me camping earlier this month. We were cuddling and I noted how nice the showers are in the bathroom at the provincial park. I said, they're hot and have lots of space for 2 people. Trying to hint for him to join me for a sexy time. This man without missing a beat says, actually you could fit like 10 people in those showers. We laughed about it really hard the next weekend and he said, I knew what you were getting at, but my brain just wanted to answer it logically. Story 19. My fiance thinks leaving my bedroom door open when she spent the night when we were just friends and she lived out of town and there was absolutely no reason for me to think anything romantic was going on was obvious. I got up and closed the door because the AC was on and was low-key miffed. Edit. We were friends for a long time before we got together, and she had a meeting early in the morning, so I gave her my bed and slept on the couch. She left the door open, thinking I would take the hint. Story 20. I'm a guy, but one time I was hanging with a longtime friend of mine who I used to have a crush on, and who knew that I had a crush on her, and had rejected me numerous times over 7 to 8 years in her dorm. We decided that we were both tired, but her other bed was occupied by our other friend, so I was gonna lay down on the floor. She was like, "There's room in my bed for you anytime." So I hop in bed with her thinking nothing of it. The next few minutes were kind of a blur, but eventually we were literally hugging with her leg wrapped around me. She looked me in the eyes, bit her lip, and said that she was horny. I never made a move beyond that, since she had spent the past almost decade of my life rejecting my advances. Dude, you fucked up. Story 21. I'm sure if Emily from 15 years ago saw this thread, she'd say, "Invited this guy to my place after our date, got him into my room, into my bed. He was just lying there, so I told him my back was feeling sore and asked him if he could give me a massage. His reply, 'Oh, I don't want to crush you with my weight.' He was about 170 pounds. Gave up and went to sleep." The truth is, I did get the hint. But at the time, I was a virgin and I was convinced I had an STD. Yeah, good combo. Turns out I didn't have an STD. Story 22. Even though I'm a guy, I have a good story about it. When I was younger, there was a girl I was super close with, best friends for ages at this point. One day she was a little off, so I asked her what was going on. Her response was something like, "I have something that I need to tell you, but I'm afraid of what you'll think about me after telling you this. I love so much our friendship that I can't see a future without you. I really, really love you, and I don't want to ever lose you." I just translated the most important parts of the text. I still have that screenshot. My response was, "Oh, I really love you too. Can't see my future without you, and we're going to be BFFs." At that time, I really wanted to date her, but still didn't get what she meant. Took me 2 days to start understanding what was happening, and 3 of her friends screaming at me that she wanted to date me. Story 23. This was some years ago. I was 22, had been talking to this guy for a while, and was ready to lose my virginity. I was a college student living at home, but my mom and stepdad were on vacation celebrating their anniversary, and I figured this would be the perfect time to make my move. He and I already had a date scheduled. So before I went, I cleaned my room and the entire house from top to bottom, created a chill playlist on my computer to listen to, shaved, waxed every necessary inch of my body from the forehead down, put on sexy underwear, and waited for him to pick me up. We went out to the movies, and when he dropped me off at home, I invited him in, with the added context and in a leading, flirty tone of voice, that we would be all alone and had all the time in the world to do whatever we wanted. He said, "That's alright. I'm sure you want to enjoy this time you get without your parents to be alone." He was sure, and he was wrong. I just stared at him for like 10 solid seconds in silence before I nodded, said, "Yeah, that's true," and got out of the car. The walk from my driveway to the front door was a real walk of shame, and I hadn't even got any good sex out of it. After that, I sat in my very clean house in my sexy underwear, eating pizza and wondering how that could have gone differently. It was my first time trying to seduce a guy into sex, and it failed miserably. I laughed about it though, and I still laugh about it now. I just figured it wasn't in the cards for me yet. Ended up losing my virginity a few more years later to the guy I'm currently engaged to, so it worked out wonderfully. He's pretty good at picking up what I'm throwing down. Story 24. Guy here, and I've been told this by colleagues. Had a date with a girl I kissed at a festival. I got her number after that first kiss and asked if she'd be down to meet in less drunk circumstances. She was. We met, we talked, and I walked her home. She asked me if she could hug me and if I wanted to sleep over. I told her I had 40 minutes to drive back home. Now I saw this as an act of politeness. My female coworkers claimed it was definitely more. I still don't know though. Story 25. Okay, so I might end up on this thread, and I feel the need to say that I actually pretended not to notice the obvious hints at one point. I had a friend who had a super obvious crush on me, one so obvious that I noticed it, which considering that I can be pretty oblivious is saying something, and kept hitting on me all the time. She was not subtle about it. At one point we watched a movie together and she practically cuddled with me the whole time. Again, not subtle. The problem was that she was in a relationship at the time, and number 1, I was not going to go out with her while she was still in a relationship. And 2, wasn't going to ask her to break up with a guy just so I could be his replacement. I considered the guy a massive jerk and thought she should indeed break up with him, but she seemed scared to be single, so I wanted her to do it for her and not so she could just jump into another relationship. There was also the matter that I wasn't sure how well things would actually work if we did get together. She was sweet and really cute, but she had some unaddressed issues with her mental health and sometimes talked to me in ways that I didn't feel were terribly respectful. Eventually, I just stopped talking to her altogether because she was, by that point, engaged and still hitting on me. She'd also said a few things that had crossed a line by that point. Story 26. Straight up told him I like him. I think his response was something like, "But I'm kinda trash," or something self-deprecating. He's friends with my best friend, and she confirmed that his depression is so bad that it takes a lot before he actually accepts any sort of positive attention. I think to some degree it's mutual. Hard to tell, as I too am oblivious when guys drop hints. Here's what happened after we still talk nearly daily. No forward motion on the "I like you" front, but I'm gonna be there for him whether we're friends or something else. Story 27. Usually guys don't simply miss the hint. They're often too nervous and either let it slip by their subconscious or notice it and don't know what to do with it, so let it go. You really have to be direct if you want a response. Edit. Usually, but not always. Yes, many hints certainly do go unnoticed. There's fear on both sides. Fear of coming on too strong and being rejected, and being too vague as a result. And then fear of misinterpreting hints and ignoring them as a result. If only we ignored our fear 10% more, how many millions of good times around the world would occur as a result? Story 28. I once invited a coworker crush over at 9 p.m. on a Sunday. When he asked how he should get to my place, I told him to take an Uber and that he should bring clothes for work the next morning. Somehow he arrived at my apartment thinking I had invited him over to help me pick out an outfit for a first date that was going on later that week. He finally realized what was actually happening a couple of minutes after he showed up when I told him I didn't want any of our friends to know about this yet. And it was terrifying and awesome, and it worked out. Story 29. I asked him out for Valentine's. He told me to fuck off. We were really close friends, so I didn't take it too badly. 1 year later, we're hanging out watching a movie, and he keeps getting closer. I didn't get the hint and kept scooting down to the other side of the couch, not wanting to make it weird between us. A few days later, I asked why he kept getting close to me. He said that he was interested in me. I asked if that meant we were together now. He told me, do you want to? So we got together. I later asked why he told me to fuck off. He thought I was messing with him. We're now engaged. Story 30. This guy I was dating decided to read me a letter his father wrote to him that had dating advice. My date was an excellent gentleman with a whole lot of things going for him. Unfortunately, hygiene wasn't one of them. Anyway, he came to a part of the letter where his father had listed different reasons why it is so important to have good hygiene. I piped up with a, "Oh yes, I love that piece of advice. Your dad is really smart." He never took the hint. When I later broke up with him, I never told him, but hygiene was one of the reasons. I really hope he's doing okay out there, and either figured it out or found someone with a stronger stomach. Edit. Yes, I should have told him directly. I was younger and dumber then, and I didn't want to hurt his feelings. I know better now.